So is our current industry running at a loss? Am I working for free? That's the million-dollar question that we're going to be answering today. It's no secret that trucking companies are struggling, especially with all the bankruptcies that have happened in the last 3 months. So we're going to do something interesting today. We're going to take a load, a round trip from the East Coast to the West Coast, and then from the West Coast down to the East Coast. We're going to go on those load boards together. We're going to take the gross earnings of these loads. And then we're going to deduct all on-road expenses. We're going to take the truck expense, the trailer expense, the insurance, the tolls, the plates, the bridges, the faxes, all on-road expenses. And we're going to come up with a final figure to find out the million-dollar question, is our industry currently running at a loss? Now, for all you entrepreneurs out there that are currently taking my dispatch course or any other dispatch course, I'm sure you're wondering out there, if you had a driver in that truck, are you going to be profitable or not? Well, guess what? You'll get answers to your questions also in this video. All right, so our biggest fan base is out of California with over 15 million views in the last 24 months out of California. So we're going to take California as our example, and our 5th largest state in the US is New York. What we're going to do with over 7.5 million video views from the state of New York. So we're going to do a round trip from New York to California, back to New York. So before we head on to the load boards and see the gross earnings, first of all, who am I and what in the world do I know about trucking? I've been a small fleet owner since 2006. Started off this company in my very early 20s. I've been at it for 18 years. And now with over 100 power units and 3 terminals. So enough about me, let's get on to the million-dollar question. Is our industry currently running at a loss? Let's get on those load boards.
All right, so here we are on the load board. Now again, we're gonna start looking right now for loads going out of New York, going into the state of California. We'll do one way and then we'll do the second way. So let's have a look at what we have over here for rates. So here we go, Niagara Falls, New York to San Leandro, California, paying $3,400, $3,400, $3,200, $30. So you can see here all the rates on the left-hand side of what these loads are paying, okay? And all the brokers that are posting, and if I hover over this, let's have a look going from Rochester, New York to Los Angeles, California. This is a reefer load paying $3,200. Now you can see rate per mile over here on the left-hand side. So one is paying $1.28, $1.28, $1.22, $1.25. Let's have a look at, there's only 7 loads that are posted from New York going into California. Now let's open up the date range a little bit wider. So we'll do the entire week. We'll start looking for a load. This sorted by the highest rate per mile. So you can see here that we have one load going from Cuba, New York, going into Fresno, California, pays $1.33 per mile. Let's route this shipment. So we got 3,009 miles, 43 hours of driving. Average diesel price is $4.21 along route. And we have $9 in tolls. Wow, the rate per mile is $1.18 per mile. We don't have any deadhead miles right now. Let's turn this off. All right, let's look at Niagara Falls, New York versus... All right, so most of these loads are paying about $1.25 to $1.28 per mile. That is unreal. All right, so we got $1.33 per mile. So let's take into consideration that we booked this load because it's really not much better over here. I think $1.28, $1.29 is the best that we can do. So let's post up the gross earnings, $3,400. Let's take Johnstown, New York, as going to Riverside. Actually, we do not have a reefer, we have a dry van. So we're just doing this test for the dry van division. And we're going to refresh this. Now here are the loads, $1.33, Buffalo, New York to San Leandro, California. I'm gonna choose this one because I'm next to Buffalo, New York. Let me just route it, here I am. I'm gonna turn off deadhead miles right now. If I want, I can send the broker an email with a click of a button. There you go, I just sent the broker an email. Let's have a look at this. So $1.28 per mile. So we're gonna take this into consideration as if we took this load. Buffalo, New York to San Leandro, California. Let's write this down, $1.28 per mile. And we have 2,652 miles. And this load is paying $3,400. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna now pretend like our truck arrived in San Leandro, California. So let's put here now, San Leandro. And we're looking to go back to New York and we have a dry van. So let's look at those rates. Hopefully it'll be much higher. All right, we have a Bakersfield to Bronx, New York. I don't know how I feel about going into Bronx. I'd rather do a Fresno, California to Rochester, New York. This is actually better for me. So let's open up this little globe over here. So my truck currently, San Leandro, California, is 164 miles away from Fresno, California. And this load is going into Rochester, New York. So you have 2,890 miles. This load here is paying me $1.80 $1.78 per mile. Now this is outrageous. There's nothing much better here. Fresno to Rochester at $1.83 per mile. Now I'm probably gonna call them. I'm gonna get a couple of $100 more. They're paying $5,000. Hopefully I can get 52 out of them, and I'm gonna run at $1.80 per mile. That's with my deadhead. So if we're going to do $1.80 per mile on this load, and this is from Fresno, California, going to Rochester, New York, we have a total of 2,890 miles, and the rate is $5,200. So we got 3,400, we got 5,200 miles. Now let's go into the Excel sheet. We'll start breaking down. So we have our gross earnings. For those of you that are wondering why my DAT has different features than yours, because I have an add-on, I have a Chrome extension that I use. It's called Load Connect. Just Google it and you'll see that I have many more features than the regular, DAT. I can instantly send an email to anybody posting loads. Plus I can route shipments and I can do a lot more stuff. If you want information on it, I've done videos on it. But back to the video. So we got gross earnings of $5,200. We got gross earnings of $3,400. Let's go into my Excel sheet. All right, so we have total gross earnings of $8,600. Now let's look at the amount of miles that we drove. So we drove 2,652 miles, plus we had 2,890. Now this is with the deadhead miles. We have 5,542 miles. So I'm gonna put that number over here. Why is this so important? Because we're gonna need to understand the fuel. Let's say you're an owner operator, you're working for yourself. We're talking about small fleet owners. We're talking about owning your own truck. So we are going to pretend like we're fleet owners, just so you guys can understand. Our fleets currently running at a loss. So truck payment, okay? So first let's try to understand, in order to do 5,542 miles, that's probably gonna take us about, I would say, 5 days there, 5 days back, one reset, and probably another day off at the end. In total, I think it's safe to say probably about 14 days. Just for the sake of this calculation, it's much easier. I'll do 15 days. Why did I take 15 days? Because I can basically deduct insurance payments by half. I can deduct lease payments by half. So any monthly payment I can deduct by half. It's much easier, but this is actually, it would take this round trip to probably do about 13 or 14 days, okay? So ET motor freight fee, so there is no ET motor freight, but the lease payment on a truck, I would probably say, is about $2,500. So in order to do this trip, we're talking about $1,250. Fuel, so let's count the fuel. Right now, the national average is $3.80 per mile, but going to California and back, you're probably gonna end up paying a little bit more, but let's take $3.85 per gallon. So if we take the total miles, which is 5,542 miles, and you divide that by, our trucks run at 7.5 miles per gallon. There's some trucks that run at 8, some at 9, some at 6. We'll probably take 7 miles per gallon, which is I would say is a safe number to take. So if you divide that by 7, you have 791 gallons that you need in order to do this trip. And let's say our national average is $3.85 per gallon. So we have $3,048 in fuel in order to do this round trip. So $3,048 in fuel. Tolls and bridges, we said, let's just take probably around $25. There's not gonna be that many tolls here. Insurance, we definitely need insurance. I don't know, $1,500 per month. And if you take $1,500 per month, you divide it by 2, that's $750 for these 15 days. Registration, so plates for that truck is gonna cost you about $166 per month. If you divide that by 2, is $83. Any other expenses that I'm missing? Yes, I'm missing the trailer fee, right? So the fee for the trailer. So that trailer for that drive-in is probably about $1,000 per month. We're gonna put here $500 for 15 days. We do have a load board fee. We do have additional probably 10 cents for maintenance. This is for your oil changes. This is for your tires. 5,542 miles. Multiply that by 0.1. We're talking about $554 for repairs and maintenance to go into an account. Okay, so I think we get the picture over here. Now, this is actually as an owner operator driving your own truck. So here you are, you did this round trip based on today's rates. We went into the load boards. I showed you what these loads paid. We got $8,600 in gross earnings for this round trip. We spent $1,250, which is half of our lease payments per month, approximately $3,050 on fuel, $25 on tolls and bridges, $750 in insurance, $83 for our plates, and $500 for our trailer, plus repairs and maintenance. We took $554. Now, owner operators left off with $1,000 $195. Are fleets running at a loss? We still haven't answered that question. We're going to answer it in just a second. One of the things that we're going to need to include here is a driver's pay. We're talking about probably 65 cents per mile. Multiply that by 5,554 miles times 0.65. You're looking at $3,600 for a driver's pay. All right. Now, if I put that on top of this, very quickly you will start to understand why so many companies are going out of business. Okay. Now you can see here that in 15 days, the owner of this truck came at a loss of $1,200 in 15 days. Do we have a clear picture of what's happening? Absolutely, you have a clear picture of what's happening. When is this going to get better, or what kind of rates do we need in order to break even? So let's do a formula right now saying that we have 2,890 miles, plus we had 2,652 miles. It was 5,542, 8,600, divide this by $5,542, okay? So we ran this load at $1.55 per mile. I mean, these are the load boards. I didn't make this stuff up. I logged into the load boards. I had a drive van looking from New York to California and California back to New York. This trip, actually, I made $1.55 per mile. So it's very easy to say that at $1.55 per mile, the fleet is coming out at a loss if you have a driver and if you have a truck and all your expenses. Now, again, there's a lot more expenses here for small fleet owners than what I put here, but just to give you an overview of what's happening and why so many companies are going out of business, right? How much can you keep this up at running at a loss? Now, imagine we did this round trip rate at $1.75, 25 cents extra on 5,542 miles be enough? That'll give me an extra $1,385. So that would take me out of the loss. But to answer that question that we started at the beginning of the video, are fleets running at a loss? Well, I've showed you that taking a load from the East Coast to the West Coast, from the West Coast back to the East Coast, which is New York to California, California to New York, the trucks are absolutely coming at a loss based on today's load boards that are offered on DAT. So hopefully this video was able to answer some of your questions. And for you entrepreneurs coming into the industry, you need to understand that you have to run these trucks at a bare minimum of $2 per mile in order to become profitable. But what kind of lanes are you going to be doing in order to run at $2 per mile? Well, there's a lot more profitable lanes than going from East Coast to West Coast and West Coast back to East Coast. So I do not recommend doing that kind of service. I would recommend that if you're in the West Coast, there's other services that you can provide in order to be profitable. And if you're in the East Coast, there's definitely other services that you can provide in order for you to become more profitable. Well, hopefully you learned something from this video. I'd really love to hear what you guys have to say, and hopefully I was able to show you guys how fleets are coming out at a loss with today's freight rates. At the end of the day, it's how deep are your pockets, meaning how long can you sustain this torture and coming out at a loss. Hopefully you learned something from this video. I'm Ronen, and I'll catch you in my next one.